In this video, we're going to walk through setting up a Linux Jumpstart server to install Solaris over the network. This is especially helpful if you have an old Sunbox that doesn't have a CD-ROM drive. Many of the guides online are using ancient versions of Linux like RHEL 5, so we're going to use something a little bit more modern with Ubuntu 18.04. In our fresh install of Ubuntu, we're going to install rarpd, bootparamd, tftpd, and NFS. Now we're going to configure our services. We're going to start with NFS, since we're going to be exporting the Solaris 10 DVD over NFS. In this case, we're just going to specify our entire subnet. If you want to lock it down to just a single host, that's fine too. Now we're going to edit our ethers file for rarpd. This is what's going to give our Sunbox an IP address, since it doesn't support DHCP. You can pull the MAC address as the Sunbox boots. Now we're going to add a host entry for it, since in boot params we have to specify a host name. And now in boot params, we're going to add the host as well as the boot arguments, which is going to point it at our Linux NFS server. While we're adding install here, it's not strictly necessary, since we're going to be adding this manually during the setup process. Alright, now that we're done with those, we can restart these services. Now we're going to make the export directory where we're going to be mounting that Solaris 10 DVD. While you can add this to etc fstab if you'd like, we're just going to mount this temporarily for testing. Now that it's mounted, we're going to copy the inetboot file for our platform to our tftpd directory. Now we're going to go to our tftp boot directory and we're going to create a symbolic link to the hex version of our IP address. You can generate this with any online calculator, and there's some Perl one-liners too you can use. Now we're going to use exportfs-r to update the NFS export and check to make sure it took. And now we're ready to boot over the network. Note that you can find the MAC address here, so if you didn't get it earlier, now's the perfect time to add it to etc ethers. Now you can type boot net-install, and you should see it start to boot from the netboot and get an IP address. While it's booting, you'll likely see this error here. You can safely ignore it and just type exit to continue. Let's fast forward through the rest of the install process. This took over an hour on a 400 MHz Sun Netra X1. Now that the install is done, we can restart and boot from disk. We're greeted with the first boot setup screen, after which we can log into our fresh Solaris 10 install. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions down in the comments.